Who are some good beginner occult authors as well as some of your favorite authors?
Okay, so we've mentioned Crowley already. He's a pretty big one for most. There's also Lon Milo Duquette. There is John Michael Greer is a good one. There's Dion Fortune. There is Donald Michael Craig. There is those are going to be your traditional ones. But then there's also like Robert Bruce, who writes a lot about astral projection. There is people like Robert Anton Wilson who discuss the more psychological components. There's people like Jung, Carl Gustav Jung. You could even get into Aristotle and Plato, Pythagoras. These are all pretty esoteric people. I've got a list of books here. So one is a book called Prometheus Rising, by Robert Anton Wilson. And it's actually a relatively small book as far as the occult goes. And it approaches things from a more psychological level. Then there is, as we mentioned Crowley earlier, this is the Book of Thoth, which is one that I would recommend also. And this mostly discusses tarot, but it discusses tarot in a universal sense, and it sort of breaks down the cosmos into its different factors and components in a way that we can understand them from a psychological and philosophical level as opposed to a scientific and chemical understanding. We also have the Ciceros, um, Schick and Tabitha or Tabatha Cicero, and another one I forgot to mention, which is Israel Regardie. And this is the book A Garden of Pomegranates. And this is a very good introduction to esoteric philosophy and the occult. And the second half of the book is called Scrying on the Tree of Life. And it's actually solely devoted to a concept called pathworking, which is very, very huge in my practice. It's essentially internal and external exploration. For me, pathworking was the basis for astral projection. I first learned how to scry, and then using my scrying capabilities, I learned how to pathwork. And then once I got enough experience in pathworking, I was then able to astral project. So that's another one I would recommend. Another book that I would recommend, and other occult authors that I would recommend, are Denning and Phillips. And this is the book Planetary Magic by them. And this is an entire course in and of itself. This will teach you how to do planetary magic, how to work with the celestial spheres. And it also has a very interesting section that is about, I don't know, 100 pages or so, that is just correspondences. And it's saying things like, well, here's the god Apollo in this system. These are the deities in other systems that might relate to Apollo. Or here's the god Zeus. What other cultures had gods like Zeus, and what were their names? What herbs are associated with them? What types of incense? What musical notes? What days of the week? So that you can better come into attunement with those forces themselves. Another great occult author is Peter Carroll, and this is Liber Null and Psychonauts. This is another one that I would highly recommend. It is a little bit more advanced, but it's also more practical because it takes a more chaotic approach to magic. And last but not least, the book that I would recommend as well is a book called Circles of Power by John Michael Greer. This is a system in itself as well. This will take you all the way from an initiatory level all the way to an adept level, and perhaps higher if you know how to actually digest and work the information that's given therein.